Each year, the UN publishes a report evaluating the gap between the latest climate pledges and the Paris Agreement's goals. It concludes that the world is falling short. This year's report that the updated pledges world probably result in warming of around 2.7. Chronic inflammation caused by obesity may trigger the development of cells that break down bone tissue, including the bone that holds teeth in place, according to new research at Buffalo University that sought to improve understanding of the connection between obesity and gum disease. The life of a hunter-gatherer is indeed, as Thomas Hobbes said of the state of nature, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. In some respects, to be sure, wandering through the jungle bagging monkeys may be preferable to the hard slog of subsistence agriculture. Quite obviously, a significant rise in the number of people in a given area or country will affect the demand for a whole host of goods and services. Note that a change in the structure of the population will increase the demand for some goods but reduce the demand for others. Egg shape has long attracted the attention of mathematicians and biologists from an analytical point of view. The shape has been highly regarded for its evolution as large enough to incubate an embryo, small enough to exit the body in the most efficient way, not roll away once laid, is structurally sound enough to bear weight and be the beginning of life for so many species. Income inequality, a measure of how unevenly income is distributed through a population, has long been associated with a host of health and social problems including mental health issues, lack of trust, higher rates of imprisonment and lower rates of social mobility. It may also affect academic achievement through various routes. How would you feel about a new therapy for your chronic pain, which although far more effective than any available alternative might also change your religious beliefs? Or a treatment for lymphoma that brings 1 in 3 patients into remission, but also made them more likely to vote for your least preferred political party? A new study found that while a beauty premium exists across professions, it's partially because attractive people develop distinct traits as a result of how the world responds to their attractiveness. They build a greater sense of power and have more opportunities to improve nonverbal communication skills throughout their lives. City planners predict that as more people move into urban areas, traffic jams will get worse. That's why sustainability experts propose a new way to analyze traffic congestion. Using more precise measures to describe the shape of cities and considering other socio-economic factors, the model, which was applied to nearly 100 American cities, could lead to a better understanding of the link between congestion and land use. If you're putting together a team for a project, you might be inclined to pick people with cheerful, optimistic dispositions and flexible thinking. But a new management study indicates your team might also benefit from people who are exactly the opposite, according to experts at Rice University, the University of Western Australia, Bond University, and the University of Queensland. Precambrian cartons. Some of Earth's oldest rocks were uninhabitable for microbes for much of their existence, which the longest period of habitability not much beyond 1 billion years, and many only for the past 50 million to 300 million years, according to a paper correlating Earth's deep biosphere with geologic history. In recent years, scientists have created music based on the structure of proteins as a creative way to better popularize science to the general public. But the resulting songs haven't always been pleasant to the ear. In a new study, researchers use the style of existing music genres to guide the structure of protein song to make it more musical. Scientists are now trying to find ways to help treat patients by jump-starting those lackluster T cells. Much of the research in this field, known as cancer immunotherapy, has focused on finding ways to stimulate those T cells directly. MIT researchers have now uncovered a possible new way to indirectly activate those T cells, by recruiting a population of helper immune cells called dendrite cells. Summerhill School was regarded with considerable suspicion by the educational establishment. Lessons were optional for pupils at the school, and the government of the school was carried out by a school council, of which all the pupils and staff were members, with everyone having equal voting rights. Nature offers no greater splendor than the starry sky on a clear, dark night. Silent, timeless, jeweled with the constellations of ancient myth and legend, the night sky has inspired wonder throughout the ages, a wonder that leads our imaginations far from the confines of Earth and the pace of the present day, out into boundless space and cosmic time itself. Despite a number of events in recent years devoted to language diversity, language endangerment, and multilingualism, such as the International Year of Languages, public awareness of the issues is still remarkably limited. Only 1 in 4 of the population known that half the languages of the world are so seriously endangered that they are unlikely to survive the present century. The survey found that the statistical chances of someone from a poor background being accepted at one of the country's most respected universities are far lower than those of a student from a wealthy family. This means that the inequalities in society are likely to be passed down from one generation to the next. There is every reason to believe that effective regulations are not merely a luxury that only the rich can afford, but an important foundation for a thriving private sector and economic growth. But the broad pattern of the past 5 years has that the main reform efforts are taking place in rich countries. The advantage of the great European and American orchestras is that they were able to establish their iconic status in an age when their identity could become entrenched. There was less competition and it was easier to create a brand. Not only did they have best halls, they attracted the best musicians, who tended to stay put. Most of us spend on average 1800 hours per year in our jobs, and will work for about 40 years before retirement. When you consider the amount of time spent in the office, you soon realize how important it is to feel a sense of achievement at the end of the day, rather than just meeting financial objectives. Extroverts tend to move quickly and try to influence situations directly, while introverts give themselves time to develop their insights before exposing them to the world. Extroverts are happy decisions in the thick of events, while introverts want to reflect before taking action. A level of competence in chemistry is essential to the professional practice of material conservation. An understanding of scientific concepts and a basic scientific vocabulary enables the conservator to understand conservation problems, treatments, material techniques in a systematic and quantifiable way, which can be communicated not only to colleagues in the profession but also those from other disciplines. For graduates looking to give something back, volunteering, either in the UK or overseas, is a popular option. Voluntary projects can cost anything from nothing up to a few £1,000s, and with that in mind it is essential to look into the project carefully before signing on the dotted line. Tissues are grouped together in the body to form organs. These include the brain, heart, lungs, kidneys, and liver. Each body organ has a specific shape and is made up of different types of tissue that work together. For example, the heart consists mainly of a specialized type of muscle tissue, which contracts rhythmically to provide the heart's pumping action. At an early stage in the examination of the domicile of dependency rule insofar as it related to married women, it seemed to the Commission that it would be better to examine the whole concept of domicile, particularly as dependent domicile arises in the case of minors, children under the age of majority, and mentally disordered persons, as well as in the case of married women. The Assembly also decided that, at that special session, it would adopt a concise and action-oriented political declaration, agreed upon in advance by consensus through intergovernmental negotiations under the auspices of the conference. Plato often explores the father-son relationship and whether a father's interest in his sons has anything to do with how well his sons turn out. A boy's social identity in ancient Athens was determined by his family identity, and Plato often refers to his characters in terms of their parental and fraternal relationships. Socrates was not a family man and considered himself as his mother's son. Charlie Parker noticed that the solos were only improvised through the melodies, but that he could also improvise them through the chords, thus creating new variations over the structure of the songs, and also playing more notes and faster. Children as young as 14 months old will spontaneously help others for no reward. But a study of 3 to 5-year-olds found that, although they would spontaneously draw pictures, if they were given a reward for drawing pictures, then later they wouldn't make any drawings unless a reward was offered. The colonial institution has a lengthy and illustrious history that dates back over 200 years. Many of the persons who have worked here are scientists themselves, such as Albert Einstein. He produced breakthroughs that made it simpler to produce and use electricity, allowing us to do things like switch on lights, cook dinner, and play video games on consoles.